Hey y'all, welcome back to Coffee with Cory. I'm your host, Cory Jackson. I hope you have your favorite cup of coffee ready or have it brewing, or if you don't like coffee, I hope you have your favorite drink with you this morning as we dive in today to casting with confidence, trusting yourself and God. Question for you this morning: ever second guess a dream or feel uncertain about your next step? Well, in this episode with Coffee with Cory, I'm sitting down with my friend and coach, Chad Bourquin. He's a man who knows what it means to cast with confidence. As a music biz coach, booking agent, keynote speaker, and a member of Big Time Grain Company, Chad has helped countless artists, entrepreneurs, and creatives step out boldly and believe in both their calling and the one who gave it. From launching businesses to standing on big stages, Chad has powerful stories and insight about moving forward with purpose, taking bold swings, and embracing fear. And I know that firsthand by working with him. So if you are standing at the edge of something new and wondering whether you're ready, well, this episode is for you. Chad, thank you so much for being here, man. It is truly an honor to have you on. How are you doing today?
Good, dude. That intro, man.
Well,
I'm fired up, ready to go to work.
Well, let's go, man. You've been a lot to me, so I know that just having you on here, I truly, truly appreciate it, man. And I know that some people may recognize you because I was on your episode of Gig Soap not too long ago, and I shared that and had a lot of people reach out to me even about that, telling how they had tuned in and just loved it. So.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining me today on Coffee with Cory.
Yeah, man.
Well, man, I know for those that are pursuing a music career, or it could be anything, honestly, I would just highly recommend your podcast, and I would love for us to dive deeper into that and just stuff that you offer here in just a little bit. So, but first, I wanted to ask, I don't know if I've ever asked you this question, but do you drink coffee?
I do when it's really cold outside. Yes, I do. I'm not a connoisseur, but I do like it on occasion. Yeah.
On occasion. Yeah. Well, I understand, man. I completely understand. My parents, they did not drink coffee when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. And I think the only reason I really got into it was because both my grandparents drink it, and when I would stay the night with them, I would love waking up to the smell of coffee being brewed in the morning. But it took me a long time to like the taste of it, but now it's my favorite.
Well, I mean, as a kid, my dad would always go to the coffee shop in the morning and take my brother and I, and so coffee was always paired with a caramel Long John donut.
Ooh.
So that was my start of my coffee, and that's not a habit that you want to continue on the rest of your life. So.
Well, it sounds good.
It's very good. You dip it in there.
Oh, man, yeah. Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, man, I wanted to ask you another question as we get started here, just for fun. Do you remember the last time you went fishing?
Well, I remember the most memorable last time I went fishing. Anyway.
Yeah, share that.
It's been a long time because I don't know that I really fished much since I was a kid. My dad had invented this machine, a weed puller, organic weed puller, that we were traveling all over the country as kids with him in this motorhome, and a lot of times in Minnesota, and we would always stay at lakes. And there's like 10,000 lakes in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And this one lake, my brother and I went out on this raft and we landed in a school of crappie. And like every time you threw in the line, we were pulling out fish. And we were keeping them. So we had them in a bucket. We go rowing back, and man, the look on Mom's face was like, seriously? Dad's like, well, I guess we got to clean them. So
right.
We had like 30 or 40 in
Oh,
there.
wow. Y'all ate
Yeah.
crappie for a little while then.
Yeah.
That's my dad's favorite. We love to go crappie fishing. So
Yeah.
we actually did that a couple months ago. It's been, oh man, you just can't beat the taste of crappie. It's so good.
It is good. Yeah.
Well, man, thanks for sharing all that. I love to ask those questions to get started, and let's just dive in here, man. I know a little bit about your story, but I would love for you to share it as we just dive into this episode here. So feel free to start wherever you'd like. But I know that I think you just hit the ground running with music after high school, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple, probably what you call glitches in that story. Cause when I started because of a buddy of mine sitting next to me at a assembly when a band came through, said, "Hey, let's play guitar, or why don't you learn to play guitar and we'll start a band." And he was already been playing a number of years. And I was so taken in by this concert I was sitting in that I just said yes without even thinking. Like, yes, I want to do this. I was a junior in high school. So, we played together, practiced for like 6 months and got one gig playing 2 songs. And that was in the same building. And it was just, I remember that moment of playing those 2 songs in front of the crowd thinking, this is what I want to do. And then,
Wow.
and then I heard we got a new practice place, and I was driving, small town in Colby, Kansas. I was driving down Main Street, and, the doors open to where I think this place is. And I go, so I stop it. I'm going to go see it. And I'm walking down the stairs to this, and I hear music playing. First, I think it's somebody's playing a radio or something. And I get to the bottom, and it's my band without me they didn't really fire me. They just started a new band without the drummer and myself. And that's how I found out I was no longer playing with those guys. And so I had played enough. I wasn't very good, so I get why they moved on, I drove home just really, really just upset. And I got home and just like, man, I'm going to show them. I'm gonna become the best guitar player ever, that type of deal. Mature thinking type stuff.
Right.
So, this is pre-YouTube, pre-internet, pre-all that. There was one guy in town that taught guitar. I had one lesson with him. He's like, "No, I can't teach you what you want to know." So I had to drive like 100 miles, legit. I mean, this is not a story.
Wow. This is like from Colby,
Kansas. 100 miles one
Wow. way.
To get lessons every Sunday from a guy that could teach me what I wanted to know. And I did that for 6 months to just to fix a lot of the bad habits I'd created the first 6 months. And just learned the basic, and then I kind of took it from there, and eventually got picked up by a group. I mean, I put in 2 to legitimately 7 hours a day practicing guitar. I come home from school and that's all I would do.
Wow.
And then I got a job at a music store that had hardly any business. So then I got paid to practice guitar. I just sit in there and practice all day long at this music store, and eventually got picked up by this group that eventually then went on the road and playing 4 to 6 nights a week for like 6 years or about 5 years, and traveled all over the Midwest, Canada. Incredible experiences. But that's where I kind of really learned what it took to build a successful band. It's rare that you have 5 guys all on the same page. It's tough.
Right.
I mean, in fact, I advise now, you're better if you're an artist and a singer, you're better off to hire this out, because it's so hard to do this thing with a democracy.
It is.
I mean, they can have input, but I mean, you can't make a committee decision for everything you do unless you really are on the same page.
Right.
But I was fortunate we were that way, and everybody kind of took on a role. I mean, we did everything we could to do it over the top. From the performance, I mean, we ended up having a 22-foot box truck and a 3-man road crew hauling everything. I didn't set up I mean, I didn't set up any gear. I didn't tune my guitars. I didn't do any of that. I just would show up and play because we were building this image, this persona of, rock star. I didn't make any money because we were paying it all out to that stuff. But we were having fun, and we were like, we started this thing. This seems so simple. I've thought about doing this again because nobody does this anymore. We created a postcard schedule mailing list that we sent out once a month.
Oh, wow.
And physical mail, again, no internet at this time. So this would, and this would go on people's fridge. They'd put it on there and leave it on there. And we ended up building huge followings, and everybody always knew when we were coming to town.
Yeah.
And every one of the guys in this band, we got really good at what we did during the breaks, going out and making friends. And these were like 4-hour shows. Wow. So there was 3 breaks and before and after. So that was a lot of time to build relationships. Even our road crew was good at doing it. So we had 8 people building relationships every show. And, it was doing really, really well, and then at one point the singer had just had enough. He was married, and apparently his wife had had enough too. And he called it quits one night, and it was over just like that.
Wow.
And so that was my start.
Man, what a start. That's incredible. I love the postcard idea too of your shows. That I never would have thought about that. What a cool idea.
Yeah. I mean, you do that today. Everybody's so used to email.
You're right.
And something physically shows up.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing about mail is we are about 99% of what we get in the mail is going to be a bill or an ad.
Right.
And so you get something that's somewhat positive. I mean, this could be called an ad, but it's really more, it's about something different. And so there's an emotion that rises if you get something positive in the mail.
Oh, absolutely.
So you kind of tap into that. I learned that from a marketing guy years later. We didn't even know what we were doing, but later I heard a marketing guy talk about this. It's like, if you send something positive in the mail, even if you handwrite it, it's even better. Not that you could do this handwritten, but it's a reason for thank you cards for sure.
Right. Oh man, absolutely. Dude, there's so much stuff we could talk about in this episode. I'm trying not to get off track. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many questions. But for those that don't know, Chad is my coach, just kind of reiterating some of what we talked about a while ago. And we have did we meet and talk about that for the first time? Was that last year around this time?
Maybe.
I can't remember how long it's been. But man, not only have you had that experience with your band early on, which before I move on, did y'all know what y'all were doing when y'all were like interacting with the fans? Did y'all realize what y'all were doing at that time?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
We were all small town Western Kansas boys. And I would like to say we knew what we were doing, but I think we were just all having fun.
Yeah.
And that was part of it,
Wow.
In Western Kansas was, there's other places like this, but it was just like, it's such a community driven thing. Every weekend as a kid, we'd just go find places to hang out as groups, until the cops would show up and tell us we had to leave. Right. There was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Or we would drive. We'd drive 100 miles to go see a concert or like a local band.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Man, that's so cool. I just had to ask that because I was like, man, what a really cool thing to look back on and be like, wow, we were not only were we just having fun, but we really were creating an amazing community to build off of. And I just thought that was so cool. I want to kind of continue on with your story there. So, for those that don't know, Chad, man, you're a keynote speaker, you're a coach, you have an entertainment company, you, what well, now my mind's blanking. There's so many things that you do, man. It's just incredible.
I forget to.
But what led to, I'm not sure what came first, the entertainment company or agency or big time grain company. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit of that journey?
Yeah, the agency thing, I started me working for another agent because the agency that was booking this rock band that I was traveling in, I didn't even mention it's a rock band, but it was the owner of Omni Entertainment, Jeff Tiller. So he's still doing it today, but he was booking us. And at one point I remember him saying, things are exploding. If this keeps up, I'm going to hire you. And,
wow.
I said, well, how about now or something? Cause I wasn't making any money. So he started teaching me the business. And then when the lead singer decided that he was done, I went and got a bartending job temporarily just to kind of make a little bit of money while I learned how to book and built that up. Now This was still back pre-internet, and it was a lot of low paying bar gigs, which you take a small commission off that. It was a hard way to make money. So I did it for about 5 years before I just finally said, I can't do this anymore. Cause I'd met my wife and I needed more income. So I got out of it that time. But then over the course of the years, I played in this little rock band with my brother. Started as an original Christian band that led to just an original band that then my brother left that led to same band. It turned into a cover band,
Yeah.
So that was just kind of how I stayed in music over that time. But, and it was like 2010, I think it was a friend of ours brought a friend over for New Year's Eve one night. We were just hanging out. I was playing Wii and, a tennis, and she goes, hey, she happened to be the marketing director for Legends here in Kansas City. And I'd never met her before, but she found out a little bit of my past. She goes, well, I was kind of thinking about doing this acoustic series out there. And I'm like, yeah, I could help with that. And I just said yes without even really thinking it through. I didn't even know if I still had all the contacts, or if they even musicians were still there, but a lot of them were. And I put together this acoustic series for her that then led to a bigger series the next year that then led to I remember the lady that worked at the Plaza then got hired for the same company, so I'd start working with her. Then she referred me back to the Plaza. Then the lady at the Legends moved to Park Place, and she took me with her there, and I stayed at Legends. I mean, it just kind of every year I ended up getting like a new client and staying with the old one. Yeah. And so it just kept growing. During this time, I had also started a advertising company. There's a whole story why that happened that we don't have time for, but it was a door hanger advertising company where we would sell multiple ads and send crews out. We were delivering about 100,000 ads throughout Kansas City at its peak, with coupons on them. And it was these big, beautiful ads right to the door. It was going great until the 2008 crash. And then that was advertising was one of the first things, most businesses cut during that time. And so it was going under pretty quick. And I was just like, man, I'm not happy. And I'd already started Big Time Grain Company at this point. And I had some of this agency business stuff going on. I'm probably mixing up my dates, but if anybody's doing the math, it's probably not all accurate. But anyway, but I remember sitting in my basement studio, just fed up. I mean, I was going broke, about to lose the house. And I remember this thought. It's like, well, if I'm gonna go under, I'm gonna go under at least doing something I love. So I completely shut the advertising agency down, and went all in on music with Big Time Grain Company, and then also, worked on the agency. Although I still was not trying to grow the agency. I was just kind of managing what was coming in, but I really wanted to grow Big Time Grain Company, and I wanted to do it now because it was a new group, and I had this thought. It's like, well, I've learned a lot here. I've had an advertising company. I also ran a vitamin sales organization for 5 years, which I didn't even mention, but a lot of time in here. And then working for the other agency that I'd worked for, plus all the years of playing, I'm like, I think I know enough to really start something a lot better than I ever had before. So we started Big Time Grain Company, coming out of the gates saying, okay, what if we came out of the gates looking bigger than we are? Not falsely, but let's do everything pro pictures, pro website, pro whatever. And I remember getting like 7 gigs for this group at a higher pay than anything I'd played in the rock group for 15 years without anybody have ever seen us.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, there's something here. So let's lean into this. And there was something there with the group, but there was also something there with creating a very professional business run group. Now you still have to back it up. We had to back it up when we got to the gig. We couldn't, you can't do that very long if it's not a real product. But, and so we did, and we just kind of saw this thing going on, and we started getting bigger and better opportunities. And then we just started seeing, okay, let's bump the pay up. Let's see if people still buy it. So we bump it up $500 one year, and then we did it again the next year, and then again the next year, and it just kept going up, and people kept buying it.
Wow.
So yeah, that is kind of how that all went down, and then COVID hits. And that was when I decided, well, I've got a little time here. I'm going to start diving into coaching.
Had that been something you'd been wanting to do? I know you've mentioned before you've had a coach, and so just curious about that.
It just kind of, I guess I hadn't really thought it through a lot, but I knew how much a difference it made in my own life because I've had a coach for years. Brett and I had the same, my brother was in the group for Big Time Grain Company for a long time, and we had the same coach. We'd meet, and he kept us on the rails. There was a couple times we were going off the rails because being brothers and business partners and all that. And he kept us on the rails, but more importantly, this is where I learned to think better, which was something that I had never gotten as a kid, how important that was. That what you think and what you say and how you respond instead of react and how much that plays into our overall success in all of our life. That was such a big thing for me to learn. And it took a while because it's like my computer had been programmed the same way for years. And it needed a hard reset, but that doesn't just happen. You can't just hit a button. It's reboot, and it doesn't just happen.
I wish.
Your subconscious, you have to keep feeding it the right things because your subconscious is really what's driving our lives behind the scenes. It's what causes us to respond positively or react negatively. And so it takes time. In the Bible they call it renewing your mind. It's the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's just how you word it.
Yeah.
And so that took a lot. Well, it still takes time. I don't think we're ever done with that.
Right.
But so I began really focused on that myself, and I thought, well, this has worked for me. I think I can help some other artists. And so I started that mastermind group. It was just Nick and I, Nick Dave, who, and we would just get together and talk because I just knew that when we came out of this COVID thing, there was going to be a high demand for entertainment and a low supply. And so Nick and I spend every week, we just talk, what are we going to do to prepare for this? And then Nick, because he was an acoustic solo artist, he was able to really thrive during that time.
Right.
Because he was able to do a lot of outdoor shows, a lot of private stuff, all that. So, he was really came out of it good. But, and man, I remember when that faucet turned on. It was May of 2021. Because during this time, I was doing a few different things. I was actually helping tech company launch a COVID scanner thing that could see the frequency of COVID, and it could have been a really cool thing. And I could have anyway, it didn't happen, but
That is a cool story.
it is a cool story. Yeah. So, but at May 2021, all of a sudden, man, that faucet turned on. And I had to call those guys like, man, I can't help anymore. Cause there wasn't even any, I was just donating my time at that point. But, when that faucet turned on, it was like, this game is on.
Wow.
And because we'd prepared for it, we were ready from an agency point of view. And then also from a band point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the coaching thing has just kind of grown. Western Kansas. The coaching thing's grown organically over time. I haven't really put much into marketing it.
Wow.
But my own personal mandate is like, I'm just going to keep helping artists and let this thing do what it's going to do right now.
Yeah.
And that was my goal.
Well, that's awesome, man. Because I know when we met sometime, I guess it was last year, or actually the first time we met was when I reached out to book at Guitars and Cadillacs. And that was how I remember talking to you on the phone and thinking, man, this guy's so cool. Like, he's so nice and just like so down to earth and so humble. And I was like, he's so easy to talk to. And that was my first time to reach out to really, I'd reached out to bigger gigs and had some success, but to have something like that and to get a quick response, it meant a whole lot. And I didn't know you did coaching and all that kind of stuff. I just remember calling you up and being like, I know you know a lot about the music business. And I was like, I want to take you to lunch. I just want to pick your brain. And I know that's how I ended up finding out about your coaching, which I would love for us to dive more into that, excuse me, here in just a second. But so in the story that you just shared of your journey, were there moments on your journey that stand out to you where you had to step into faith?
Yeah, all the way through.
Is there one specific that you're like, oh man?
Well, the one of the biggest ones was when I decided to shut down the advertising company and go all in on music at a time that we were about to lose our house. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I was making much money on the advertising, but it was just, I just knew it was like, this is a sinking ship and I am not passionate about it. And I'm passionate about this other thing.
Yeah.
This music thing. So that's what I really need to, that's what I need to do. And it wasn't easy at all.
Oh man, I bet. Yeah.
But nothing worth, well, I shouldn't say, I was going to say nothing worthwhile that's not necessarily true either. At that time, nothing worthwhile was easy because I had a lot of things to learn. I had a lot of growing to do. Excuse me. Once you grow though, and once you learn what you need to learn, then things can be easier because what happened with me was I learned a better path to where I wanted to be. I learned a better way of doing things, a better way of thinking that does make things easier. So now when I'm faced with bigger decisions, I don't get too wrapped up or concerned or nervous or anything about them because there's a faith there that everything's going to work out. I've gotten used to and good at keeping mantras ready just to help me.
Yeah.
One of the ones when everything was hitting the fan that I really started to lean on was just everything always works out for me, which seems so simple. But if we're reprogramming our subconscious to be able to respond the way we want, then mantras are really helpful for that. Especially, when things don't go well. Yeah. And I can't tell you the number of times. I remember one time, because, leaps of faith. We bought a tour bus one time. It was originally Vince Gill's tour bus. And that was
Wow.
some of my biggest lessons ever, be careful I'd always dreamed of climbing on a tour bus and just touring the world. I'd always dreamed of, I hadn't gotten specific enough to with that whole dream to say, I shouldn't own it. I should just climb on somebody else's. Because when you own it, you're now the mechanic, the driver, the financer, everything. And there was one time we would played this gig in Iowa, and we were supposed to go to Ohio the next day, which was 10 hours away. And so we played this gig in Iowa. We go sound check, go back, take a nap in the hotel room, and go out to get in the bus to go to the gig, and it doesn't start.
Oh man.
And I'm not a great mechanic. I mean, I've learned a lot of it on that bus. But this was beyond me. And I just I remember just leaning on that. Everything always works out for me. I'm smiling though. And I'm smiling the whole time, walking around the bus, pulling out wrenches, doing all this stuff. And there was a guy that was filling in for us on keyboards that night. And he told me later, he goes, man, I can't believe how you were able to smile all the way through that.
Wow.
And I was just sitting there thinking, I was smiling to keep from screaming. But the physical act of smiling and saying those in my head helped me stay calm. Helped me go play the gig that night. Helped me logically think through options. I mean, finding rental vans at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, the night before you need them to get to Ohio, is not the easiest thing. But we did. And we left the next morning and went to Ohio, 10 hours, drove back. And then, anyway, there's a whole lot of how we finally got that bus back. Finally sold that thing.
Well, there's so much good little nuggets there. Just the smile, keep smiling, and everything always works out for me. Yeah. Man, what a thing to keep front of mind.
And you never know who's watching.
That's exactly right.
I mean, the keyboard player proved that. He's like, man, he goes, that really spoke to me. That's what he said, that you were able to navigate that way. And I'm thinking, man, it was so close to not being that
way. Oh man, it's all a work in progress, and just keeping that, like you said, keeping that mantra front of mind. Well, man, let's continue on here. Why do so many people struggle to trust themselves?
That's a really great question. I think we can have the influence over our kids in this programming if we learn it. And I don't think I got that. And I don't think a lot of people got that. Well, let me rephrase that. I got some of it. My dad was an inventor, so he was always leaping on faith. That was not his issue. So I did get that from him. But then he would self-sabotage whatever he was working on, through relationships or whatever, because he would hit what you and I have talked about a lot, is these upper limits.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's what happens a lot of times is we hit an upper limit. In other words, we get to a certain level in our life, whether it be our finances, our love life, our work, whatever, where we surpass a place where we feel worthy of being. And once we surpass that, then we self-sabotage subconsciously back to the area we feel comfortable at. And it's these comfort zones that keep us stuck and keep us in places where we're comfortable because we know it. But the problem with that is we're missing so much experiences of life that we could be having if we would just lean into those,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've just working with you, but I've so admired about you is that you have fear, but when you have fear, you go towards it. And I don't think a lot of people do that. I think it's a very, very small percentage that are able to actually lean into that fear and get past the other side. And there's so much life on the other side of that.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a new upper limit. So,
Right.
so the key is we don't get rid of them. We just get better at recognizing them for what they are. And if you shine a light on anything, then a lot of times it just goes away.
Right.
So,
Man, that's so true. And thank you for that. I have been so nervous about this podcast, especially getting started. And honestly, I was really thankful that you had started yours and then we jumped on here and got to talk about stuff, because I was like, oh wow, that helped in like a huge way for me. And I don't know what it is. I still get nervous before, I mean, even when I did shows or even jumping on here before that. But I'm like, okay, I'm nervous. All right, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Shaking it out. But man, thank you for sharing that. That was so good. I want to kind of continue. This is kind of an area of coaching and confidence that we're talking about. And I wanted to ask you a couple more questions. What are some common fears or lies you help clients overcome?
Man, you're asking great questions. I mean, belief, which we kind of hit here,
Yeah.
is a big one. Belief that what they want is actually possible. You know, there's a lot of times in somewhere along our path, we've gotten beaten down enough that it's affected our belief. Whereas kids, you know, you kind of believed you could do whatever. I mean, at one point I thought I could actually be Spider-Man. Right.
Oh, I still do.
Dude, if you figure it out,
I'll let you know.
let me know. I mean, I remember we had this porch that was 4 foot high, and I also wanted to be Superman, and I'd try these towels on my back. It's like, if I just get the towel right, I'll be all fine. I'll just go running off, you know. But somewhere along the line, you just get beat up enough, you know, you start to lose that. And I don't think we were meant to lose that. I think we were meant to lean into that. And I think some people do lean into that. Whatever you think about, not only you, but whatever anybody thinks about Elon Musk, put that aside and just acknowledge the fact that that guy has leaned into everything he's done.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me. And I've even watched and kind of what the guy's gone through with everything. It's fascinating to me to even think about saying, okay, I have no excuse to be afraid of anything because I'm not trying to get a rocket to Mars. You know, I'm not trying to anything else he's doing. I mean, what I'm doing is very small compared to that. So I have no excuse because it's, there's one God. You know, why would God bless one guy when not the other? And a lot of times we like to blame external sources for things that have not happened. And I think the switch flip that happened for me and happens for people that are able to get past that is taking ownership and quit blaming anybody, including God, for not getting where you want to go. Because I think it's available to all of us, but we have to do the work to make the right changes in ourselves to be able to move into those areas.
Man, that's good. Wow. We have to do the work to move into those areas. Man. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, man, how do you help people reframe setbacks and work towards building a grounded confidence? And I feel like kind of hit some of that just now, but
Yeah.
is there anything else you could maybe speak to that?
Well, I mean, just from a technical side, I try not to give the answer. I try to help every person I work with to discover the answer, because even myself, we remember stuff way better and it seats deeper if we discovered ourselves. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's always this joke between my wife and I, because I'll come up with a brilliant idea that I discovered that she told me about, a month ago or 2 years ago.
That's great. That sounds familiar.
That happens all the time,
Oh man, that's great.
But because I felt like I discovered it myself, that was the time it really seeded. So, and maybe that's how, our attention's grabbed, is like the seeds are planted, and then all of a sudden, and so for me, sometimes I'm not the first messenger, and sometimes I am the first messenger. Sometimes I'm the third, fourth, or fifth messenger of the same message that somebody needs to hear. So if we're willing to listen and be open to new information and change, then I think the right messages will show up. And, and I think the better we get at listening, the less pain we cause ourselves. Because sometimes those messages will start with minimal pain. And then if we don't get them, then the pain increases a little bit, and it just keeps increasing until we find, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. Or maybe I should, because that hurts.
Yeah.
Wow,
man. So good. Well, man, let's move into this next section. It's called Faith Meets Action. How has faith influenced your approach to business and leadership?
Well, I think for me, it's just having a knowing that things are going to work out, and not only work out, like my mantras have changed now. I mean, I still occasionally pull that one out when I need to, but it's more of like saying everything always works out for me, even has limits on it. Because it's saying that it was important at the time because I was having problems I needed dealt with, but it's at the same time, it's re-edifying that I'm going to continue to have problems, because if everything's working out, it's because I've keep running into issues. As opposed to that, it's like, okay, I am living a life of increasing abundance, love, health, while inspiring others to do the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's got a little different tone to it. It's slight, but it's different. One of the things we talked about just this last Monday was the words try and wish. How detrimental those are. I mean, when we say try, it's because we've decided we're already going to fail because we're just trying. When we say wish, it's because we just hope it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not enough, So leaning into something, the action, and if I get overwhelmed, backing myself off to just what's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Because the bigger the dream or the bigger the goal, the more overwhelming it can seem if we're trying to focus out too far.
Right.
But a big lesson I've learned is that step number 2 is going to be influenced by step number 1. So step number 2 of whatever that is probably going to change. It's going to be different. So for me to try to figure out how I'm going to handle step number 2 as opposed to just focus on step number 1 is a bit of a waste of time a lot of times. Now, I'm not just saying you shouldn't at least have some kind of goals or path of where you're heading, but having the openness to say, the most important thing I can do right now is this step number 1, and the most important thing I can think about is step number 1. And then I'll worry about step number 2 when that's done.
Yeah. That's hard to do. At least it is for me.
Yeah. We all like to overthink stuff.
What's that?
We all like to overthink stuff.
Oh man, yeah.
One other thing is what I get from how I start my day. You know, being a recovering type A, for years, I would hit the ground running because I felt like everything was dependent upon me. You know, and that's a different thought than say I'm taking responsibility for my actions. But what I was thinking was, this is only going to happen with my efforts.
Right.
You know, as opposed to now when I start the day, I start slow. I take my time. We've got a big picture window now that the sun comes up through, and I go out there and I just sit. I do some breathing techniques that are around health, but also give me a lot of peace at the same time too. It's when I pray. But most importantly, it's when I listen. And some days I do better than others, but if I will take the time and just listen, there's a lot of times going to be one or two things that come in there that are potentially my next steps for whatever I'm working on.
Yeah.
And if I'll follow those, it's usually the right time to follow those. And there's results and fruit that come from following those very quickly.
Yeah. Well, I know hearing that from you in our coaching sessions, man, that began to change, I would say, not only my day, but my life, because I struggled with something very similar to what you did, just having to hit the ground running. So, man, yeah, that little nugget right there, I know is going to bless and help a lot of people out there listen to this episode today. So,
yeah,
thank you for sharing that. So this next section, I was like, big time grain company. Let's talk about big time vision. What's helped you stay rooted while dreaming big?
Well, first of all, I'm married to a woman that if I get too far away from that, she's pretty good at helping me with that.
That's awesome.
So I try to do it before she has to.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, you know, the morning time that I just talked about is a big thing, but keeping my eye on what's really important.
Yeah.
You know, relationships are important. You know, relationships without expectancy of return are important. You know, the vitamin company that I mentioned earlier was a network marketing company. And I mean, we made a lot of money doing it. But the problem that I discovered, especially when I got out of it, was I had started turning everybody I knew into a potential customer. I'm like, that is not a healthy way to have a relationship, you know?
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's kind of the thing with network marketing. Is like, you know,
Right.
Everybody's a potential customer, you know, and there's people that have done really well with that sort of thing and not done that. But that's not where I was at. But it taught me a huge lesson in leadership, was that value people for who they are, not what they do.
That's good.
And then find ways to, if you help enough people, other people get what they want, you will automatically be taken care of.
Yeah.
So
that's so good. Wow. Man, here's another question for you. How do you balance being confident without being prideful?
Oh, well, I guess I don't know that I've thought that through, other than anytime I get prideful, I get beat up, and I don't like the feeling of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's something will happen that'll bring me back down pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, somebody will say something, somebody will, you know, I mean, something will just, and a lot of times it doesn't take long. It's pretty fast.
Right.
So it's just, I don't like that. So that makes it easier to not be prideful. I mean, over the years, I've definitely struggled with lack of confidence and had to learn to be okay with who I am, even as a person and as a guitar player. I mean, I've wanted to be other guitar players before,
Yeah.
you know, and that's not healthy, because there was only one of me made, and nobody's going to do a better job of being me than me. So why try to be somebody else? Because I'm not going to be better them than them.
Right.
Right. So
That's good, man. Thank you for sharing that. As we begin to kind of wrap things up here, what is some practical advice for someone sitting on a dream or a calling but afraid to act that you would give them?
a couple things. I mean, we mentioned the next step, which is big. Just identify what the next step is. But a really, really good next step might be find somebody else who's already a few steps ahead of you in that same dream or similar dream, and just go ask for advice. You know, one thing that people love the opportunity to share advice, and if you give it to them, you know, and they're in an area you want to be in, you don't know where that can lead. And also just be open to the path. You know, keep your eye on where you want to end up, but be open to the path being different than you think how it should go.
Mm. That's good, man. I love that. How do you discern if it's time to cast weight or recast in a different direction? I know that we may have kind of answered some of that throughout the podcast here, but.
Well, you mean like there's no fish in the first spot? So you need to check spots.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, if there's consistently seeing no fruit for something you're doing, then maybe it's time to look a different direction. But I've seen it too many times also where people change spots too quick. You know, and so they were thinking the situation was the reason they weren't being successful.
Yeah.
And it's more about in what the things we talked about earlier is like, am I thinking the right thoughts? Am I reading the right things? You know, I read a lot of books. Some of them are great. Some of them just okay. Some of them have been so valuable to me that I've read them 14 times, 15 times.
Yeah.
And when I say read, for me, it's audiobooks. I retain way better that way. But, so identifying is the problem internal or external, and being really truthful with ourselves is important, because a lot of times it's internal and we're wanting to blame the circumstances.
Right. Well, you just provoked another question I had or thought of just recently here. I know you've mentioned to me The Big Leap, which I've read that. Are there any, maybe you recommend that one highly for anyone listening out there today with the theme of the podcast? Is there anything else that may come to mind to you for anyone out there today?
Book-wise?
Yeah, book-wise.
Yeah, for sure. There's a few of them. Working with the Law by Raymond Hollywell is a really, really great book of understanding how, at least for me, how faith and God ties into everything we've talked about here. And that there is if we will work with the laws that God has put in place. And I'm not talking about, it's a different use of the word law, by the way, but in the book explains that. But if we will learn to work with, as opposed to saying, man, I wish God would bless me on this. See there, I use the word wish, God, I wish God would bless me on this and grant me this magic genie type thing that I want, that's one side of things. Or, okay, how does God set things up? And if I line up with how he set things up, then I can have anything I want. And that seems very, very bold. But you got to read the book before you come back and debate me on this.
Okay. I haven't read that book, so I'll have to read it. Well, man, I know as we kind of get things wrapped up here, I wanted you to just talk about your company, how people can get in contact with you, whether that's coaching, the agency, or anything like that.
Sure. Yeah, the coaching is it's gigsoap.com. And they can reach me that way. It's got a list of the different things we offer on there as well. The agency is generationrelevant.com. So, and then the band, bigtimegrain.com.
Yeah, man. Do y'all have any shows coming up this weekend?
We do. We're playing out in Hayes on Thursday, Gardner on Friday, and Baldwin City on Saturday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, y'all definitely go check out Gig Soap for sure. Come hang out with us on Mondays when we meet every Monday. I know that you can even check out more from Keith, Nick, and I know there's actually a new episode I think that came out this week.
Yeah, Steve Banky. Mm-hmm.
Steve, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Keith and Nick I've gotten to know really well over the past year, and I got to listen to their episodes of your podcast, and oh my goodness, man, there's so much good stuff there. So anybody listening to this, definitely go over and listen to Gig Soap with Keith. There's 2 different episodes, one with Keith and one with Nick, and you will just get so much great information, whether you're playing music or just life in general. So
yeah.
Chad, man, from being part of your coaching group and podcast, I can honestly say it has changed more than just my career. It's shifted how I view my calling and purpose. So thank you for what you're doing, man. It really means a lot.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Appreciate you doing this. This
has been so good. I still have a lot of questions I could ask you today.
This is a sweet spot for you. I can tell this is going to be a really cool venture for you to lean into. Thank
you. I've never done a whole lot of interviews, so this is a very new venture for me, and I've gotten to where I'm like, man, I love it. It's so much fun. Yeah. Well, y'all, as we wrap it up here today, I just want to tie it back to fly fishing, or even just fishing in general. You can't make the perfect cast if you hesitate. Sometimes you've got to let it fly in faith. And I'll tell you, I was fishing a couple weeks ago. I wasn't hesitating, but I was still getting the limb brim that was behind me, and it broke my line. But don't hesitate, because you just never know, because I think I ended up catching a fish after that. So I also wanted to, before we completely end this, read from Hebrews 10, verses 35 through 36. It kind of really related with our theme today, and it says, "So do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord. Remember the great reward it brings you. Patient endurance is what you need now, so that you will continue to do God's will. Then you will receive all that he has promised." So y'all, lastly today, I wanted to end with a question just to leave you with and to think about. What does it look like to confidently cast your gifts, your time, or your ideas out there with God as your guide? Chad, thank you again. It has been such a pleasure just to sit down, dive deeper into your story, and to get so much wisdom from you today. So thank you, man. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Cory.
Y'all, thanks for tuning in to episode 4. If you haven't yet, I hope you'll follow, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform, and give us a 5-star rating if you're loving it. Chad, would you want to say yeehaw, amen, let's go here in a minute?
All that together?
All of it together. Y'all, thanks for tuning in to episode 4. So trust the cast, embrace the journey, and let's go. Or you might hear us say,
yeehaw, amen.
and let's go. That was awesome, Chad. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, video episodes on YouTube and coming to Spotify soon. We'll see you in episode 5.